Hi, I'm Arnie Skelton, and each week in this podcast series I'm going to offer you my top 10 tips on particular topics or themes that might be of interest to you as a teacher or manager or both. Hi, and welcome to this week's podcast. I'm recording this as the last podcast before Christmas 2019, and I realise you might not be listening to this at the same sort of time. But as it is the last one before Christmas, what I thought I'd do for this podcast is recommend to you my top 10 other podcasts from the year. I've become an avid podcast listener, and I'm fairly eclectic in my choice of podcasts. I think that's one of the joys of podcasts, to just dip in to the massive range that there is available. So these are going to be my top 10. I recommend them all because they all contain interesting podcasts. Some are better than others. That's a bit of potluck, but if you get to listen to one of them and don't like it, you simply hit the off button and select something else. But these have all worked very well for me and have reliably delivered podcasts that I think, for me anyway, are really worth listening to. They're not in any particular order, but they are my top 10. So here's the top 10 of podcasts recommended by me for 2019. Number 1, The Hidden Brain. This is presented by Shankar Vedantam and is a wide-ranging set of podcasts, often with guest speakers who have written books all around how the brain works and how we think and react differently in different situations. Lots and lots of podcasts, all I think pretty interesting, and all around 30 to 40 minutes. Highly recommended. That's The Hidden Brain, presented by Shankar Vedantam. Number 2 is Nudge, presented by Phil Agnew. This is all about nudge theory, which I'm a big fan of anyway. Again, usually with guests, and again, always full of relevant information about how consumer psychology and behavioural psychology works. Easy to listen to, highly recommended. That's Nudge. Number 3 is Answer Me This. Now, this won't be to everybody's tastes. Presented by two people, Ollie and Helen, who are always jokey and having a laugh. And simply, listeners write in with questions, often quite bizarre questions. So one I listened to recently was, what's the history of the nursery rhyme, as I was travelling to St. Ives, I met a man with 7 wives, and so on. And it explores the historical reference, whether it's the St. Ives in Cornwall or the St. Ives in the Midlands, or what's the mathematical possibility of having all of those various 7 sets of items. So it's a really strange and eclectic mix of listeners writing in with questions, and Ollie and Helen answering them. They can be a little bit fruity with their language, so that may not be to everyone's taste, but it's very, very fast, very lively, and lots of just generally interesting facts if you're that kind of person who likes to learn new things. So that's number 3, Answer Me This. By contrast, but equally effective, number 4 is Employment Law Matters, presented by Daniel Barnett. He's got a lovely voice, it's always beautifully recorded, and it's a simple tip each week, or a couple of tips each week, on employment law, how the law works, and offering advice, mainly for HR and similar professionals, but pretty good for any manager who's interested in particular problems to do with people management at work. Really good, really easy to listen to, very up to date, an excellent recommend. That's number 4, Employment Law Matters. Number 5, possibly my favourite along with The Hidden Brain, is The Curious Cases of Rutherford and Frey. This is British, and it is Adam Rutherford and Hannah Frey, again listening to viewers' questions, why am I saying that? Listeners' questions sent in, usually on something scientific, which is there anything beyond space? And how can we tell there's a black hole? Or what's the sharpest object in the universe? Generally interesting science-based questions, and the chemistry between Adam and Hannah is excellent. They're both excellent speakers. Hannah has a voice to die for, and they're always witty and funny, and it's a really, really good listen. There are 14 series already recorded, which again I think is an indication of how popular they have been, and it means there's a lot, if you like them as I do, there's a lot to listen to. And they're around 15 minutes, 20 minutes each, really good for listening to on a walk or in the car. So that's number 5, The Curious Cases of Rutherford and Frey. Number 6, it's got to be in here really, the TED Talks Business podcast. Usually edited down from standard TED Talks. TED Talks is legendary. It's a set of talks to general audiences by specialists in their field, always entertaining, always interesting, and it's a massive stock of podcasts, so simply browse through until something catches your interest. So that's number 6, TED Talks Business. Number 7, American, is Startup, presented by Alex Bloomberg, and it now includes the other podcast, Without Fail. This is really for entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs. So Startup always has a guest of the week who has been through a startup process and usually has been successful, so that's Startup. And it now incorporates a separate podcast called Without Fail, where they usually focus on a guest speaker who's failed in an enterprise. So it's really good listening if you are a would-be entrepreneur. So that's number 7, Startup. Number 8, another British podcast, is Open Mind, and this is hosted by Frankie Bridge, who's a singer with the Saturdays, appeared on Strictly Come Dancing, and she's hosting a series of podcasts, not many at the moment, with guest speakers, and she has a very good network of celebrity guest speakers, all of whom have struggled with mental health, anxiety, depression, as Frankie herself has. So if you like the combination of learning a little bit about mental health and listening to celebrities, this might be the podcast for you. That's number 8, Open Mind. Similar, and again a British podcast, is Happy Place, hosted by Fern Cotton. Quite similar really in that she too has a very good network of guest celebrities, including Hillary Clinton, which is a bit of a coup, and she's talking to guests about happiness and how to stay happy and how to survive in an unhappy place or circumstance and still remain positive and resilient. So if that's your gig, if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, then I recommend Happy Place, hosted by Fern Cotton. That's number 9. And then number 10, another British podcast, is called Choiceology. Choiceology. And it's all about decision making and how we make decisions. So if that's something that fascinates you, the way we make either instinctive, intuitive, speedy decisions or more reflective, thought through, rational decisions, then this might be the podcast for you. So those are my top 10 recommends for 2019. Just to run through them again. Number 1 is The Hidden Brain. Number 2 is Nudge. Number 3, Answer Me This. Number 4, Employment Law Matters. Number 5, The Curious Cases of Rutherford and Frey. Number 6, TED Talks Business. Number 7, Startup. Number 8, Open Mind. Number 9, Happy Place. And number 10, Choiceology. And just as a sort of Christmas festive bonus, can I also offer I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue, a British comedy, in my view at its best, utterly bizarre, sometimes way off the mark, but most of the time hilarious. That's I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue. And that's the end of this podcast. So if you are listening at the time it's been recorded, have a great festive season and a happy new year, and bye for now. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe. You will still get the podcast for free, but you will also get an alert to let you know when the next podcast is available. And please recommend the podcast to anyone else you think might like it and benefit from it. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a review and any other comment, because they'll help promote the podcast series on the relevant platform. So, bye for now.